Welcome, Joshua John Miller and M.A. Fortin, Mark Fortin and Josh Miller, as we'll refer to them today. I'm going to redo that. That was terrible. Sorry. Okay. Welcome, Josh John Miller and Mark Fortin, the co-creators of The Exorcism, which is in theaters today. Guys, how you doing?
We're good. How are you doing?
Good to meet you.
I'm doing great, and it's truly an honor to meet you. You guys wrote one of my favorite films of 2015, The Final Girls,
Aw.
a smart, knowing send-up of slasher movies from the 80s that also told a really strong story about a mother and a daughter relationship. And honestly, I still get a little weepy thinking about that last scene between Malin Ackerman and Taissa Farmiga, and I can't listen to Betty Davis Eyes without getting choked up.
Aw.
Um, but with The Exorcism, you're cracking open the exorcism movie genre, but there's a lot more going on here than Riley commenting on the spinning head trope. Josh, your father, Jason Miller, was the star of 1973's The Exorcist. And in The Exorcism, Russell Crowe plays an actor, also with the last name Miller, who's starring in a sort of a remake of The Exorcist while reconciling with his teen daughter and fighting demons, both literal and figurative. Where did you and Mark even begin cracking open this story?
Oh man, how long you got? It's a long answer, but I'm trying to think what the short one of it is. I mean, I think these things happen, as I was saying a little bit earlier. I said they happen they're accidents.
Yeah.
You know, you're having one conversation, someone's like, "Well, what about something a la Final Girls and maybe Meta, maybe something about The Exorcist?" And I think in certain ways, that was sort of a kind of a wah wah. And
Yeah.
then it
Initially
became,
we were like, no.
yeah, and who wants to do anything about I don't love the subgenre of exorcism movies. That's rooted in the fact that obviously personal reasons because of my dad's film, and then also I don't know, I've just never been into it. I love other subgenres, but that one always just has the same sort of story. It's always about some hysterical female being saved by men. And I kind of just found that really dull. I just find it dull. But, and look, there's been some good ones, don't get me wrong. But I think when we've realized, oh no, let's make Russell possessed or more possessed. And why not just like have him be the character that gets, demons and women have to contend with him, and then he has to be, without giving away, have unlikely heroes save him. How can we subvert the genre? How can we also talk about addiction and alcoholism and the hellscape of making movies? Because we had a really uh complicated experience on a TV show prior to this, and I think in many ways the main character is the head of the studio. In some ways I feel like he's sort of the inspiration for it. So I think it was about kind of purging that experience for us.
Um, can you talk about your creative collaboration? I mean, I understand that you are partners in real life, and I wonder how you manage the give and take of a script. Hmm?
What is real life? Because we're talking like
Yeah.
meta,
Yeah, wait.
meta.
Sorry, we're punchy and we interrupted the end of your question. Sorry, could you repeat the end?
Oh, sure. Well, I'll just take it from the top. Um, can you talk about your creative collaboration? I understand that you're partners in real life, and I wonder how you managed the give and take of a script when you can't simply sign off from your co-writer at the end of the day.
Therapy.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Good couples therapy.
I mean, it's just working together on anything requires a great deal of trust. It requires a lot of trust on Josh's part that I can translate some ideas that he has and do like a pass on them and then give them back to him so he can shape it, and then we play tennis with it, and it requires a lot of trust on my part for him to do the same exact thing. It's just, I don't know, it's such a dance, and I think every project has a different kind of dance. With Final Girls, it was very like poppy and kicky and fun and goofy, and with this movie it was it was,
What?
I mean, it moved relatively quickly. It was so kind of, it just zipped along.
Except then it really slowed down.
And then it really slowed down.
It was like a weird kind of lopsided experience.
Yeah,
right?
COVID will do that.
But I don't want to complain.
Not complaining.
All right.
So this was sort of a it wasn't a pandemic movie, and then it was a pandemic movie, and then you kind of finishing it afterwards, and that's got to be a bit strange.
It was strange,
It
but everything
continues to be strange.
everything about, but yeah, but I feel like, I don't know, of all the movies I've been a part of, I feel like they're all kind of these unexpected experiences, sometimes amazing, sometimes horrifying. I don't know. I just feel like the whole act of recreating life, and not to get too philosophical here, but it's just, it's always sort of the DNA of the process, and the intense pressure that people put on it, the ridiculous self-importance about it too. It's always complicated in some way or another. I don't think there's, I don't want to be, I'm not, we're not special. This happens to everybody. Everybody's movie gets taken away from them, and then they have to come in and fight for it. Everybody has a terrible first day, or a terrible shoot to some extent. It's very rare anything is smooth in my experience, or what I've heard. Everything is sort of this kind of eruption, and everyone's just sort of trying to catch everything as it's midair. I think that's just the process of making films, and
One of those game shows where people are like locked in like a phone booth, and then like a wind starts up and they have to try to grab dollar bills.
Yeah,
like,
there you
whatever.
go. It's like that.
It's kind of like that for like 30 to 40
we
days.
get paid to tell stories and make movies. Who the fuck am I to complain about anything? I have
Whatever.
I have an incredible life. So there's issues. Wham, wham, wham.
Whatever.
Well, I mean, knowing all that, I mean, you guys are writing partners. You wrote The Final Girls, you wrote this movie together. But Josh, I mean, what uh, prompted you to step into the director's chair? I mean, knowing all the complications go into making a movie, that seems like it's adding a level of complexity, or, oh, please don't take my baby away, in a sense.
Well, it was the reason, unfortunately, the reason to do this movie was to protect your script, because as much as I love The Final Girls, I would have made a different movie, and I would have made it bloodier and gorier, but that was also a studio mandate to keep that movie PG-13.
Because it was about girls, you see.
Yeah.
And girls don't want scary blood things. Girls will get afraid and they'll tell their friends, don't go to that movie. But literally, that's how fucking stupid the logic was.
So I think the idea was, okay, I mean, I've always wanted to be direct things, and pretty much the movie's a collaborative thing between Mark and I. It titles mean nothing, but I think the point is that we wanted to protect the script, but then what we, unfortunately, the very harsh reality of the daylight was that, yeah, but you're making it with a studio, and they're gonna probably recut the movie. So, if you're going to work in the system, you just have to know you're a 6-month contract girl. And if you know what a 6-month contract girl is with MGM's history, it's not a great place to be, because you're dispensable. And I think, and abused. And I think the thing is that you have to know that going in. I wish I had known more of that, but I think ultimately, I think I'm really proud of the movie in a lot of ways, because Vertical, which sort of came in on the end tail of this whole experience, said, "Is there things you want to do to the movie?" And I was like, "Well, actually, yeah. There's an opening shot I want of the whole dollhouse, and I want us to see the set, and I want that to open the movie, as opposed to some other thing that was opening the movie. And I want to change this. There's things I want to change." So Vertical let us go in and work on the cut that was not our final cut. And that felt really victorious in a way that we were able to kind of shape it a little bit into what we envisioned.
Or closer to.
Closer. So that's exciting for that reason alone.
Well, I want to talk a bit about that vision, because Kevin Williamson is, he's the co-creator of the Scream franchise, and he is a producer on The Exorcism.
Yeah.
But that series had references to genre, and this film has references to genre, and specifically your career, Josh. I mean, apparently they're not so on the nose. Some are just details of casting, like a certain actor who shows up in that opening scene. Was there any pressure or temptation even to go broader in this movie, or is this cut? Is this more in line with your vision as writer, something a bit more cerebral and not as obvious?
I think we've always, I've always pitched this as it's Cassavetes' opening night. And I don't know if you know that movie well.
No.
Basically, Jenna Rollins plays an actress losing her mind during the previews of a play and is sort of visited by a ghost of a fan who was accidentally run over. And it's really cool. And Cassavetes is my idol. And I never really told anybody that because we would have been fired. But the thing is that it I mean, that's the movie that would be the dream to make. But you know, if you're gonna make a studio movie, you better have some horror elements, right? But I mean, honestly, that doesn't interest me as much. You know what I mean?
There were aspects early on where we felt like there was opportunities for, you know, like more like wild humor. And then as a result of budget constraints at a certain point, some of those things fell away. And sometimes it also felt like, well, you know, you're dealing with, you know, the root of Anthony's, the wound, you know, that makes him vulnerable to a possession. You know, I mean, it's not cute. It's not funny. You know what I mean? It's not funny at all. And so, you know, knowing that we're dealing with something a bit sensitive in that regard means that you have to choose your sense of humor for the movie very carefully. And so we ended up leaning much more into more wry, much drier kind of moments of levity, which we, you know, we did our best to dot throughout because, you know, you do need that as a pressure release valve. But I mean, I hope that answers your question.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
There was, I mean, there was a version we could have done like a big, broader comedy about making a horror film that's famous and crazy shit happening. I don't know. It just didn't go there. Look, my mom had passed away right before the film started shooting, and I think like your art reflects where you're at, and if you don't bring that to your work, then you're really shouldn't be doing it. And I think that so much we were in grief at that point when we were making that movie, tremendous amount of shock and grief. It just what happened to the movies. I think the movie's quite sad and quite heavy as a result of that, especially the first half. And I'm okay with that. And that's the movie it is. And I don't think many people are expecting that. I mean, you tell me. I'm sure you were expecting a run-of-the-mill exorcism movie, correct?
I was expecting, I mean, I'd seen the trailer. I was expecting something more along the lines of a Scream type film. And
Uh,
what you've pulled off is something that is referential, but not, you know, cute and kind of kitschy, you know. I think the drama really works. And the blending of the
Thank you.
pathos and the
Thank you
horror.
for saying that. I
That's
appreciate
kind of you
that.
to say.
Yeah, we'll take any good review. I think the thing is, I think that
I do feel though that there is kind of this weird horror industrial complex that's happened now, where I feel like audiences have been trained to think that a night out at a horror movie is supposed to be fun,
Mm.
or like it has to be fun, and you know, fun is just what it, you know, you're supposed to be. And I don't know. I mean, our movie, I think there's moments of you know nuttiness and humor, like whatever, but like. I don't know. I sometimes I think that there's like this idea that's imposed on a movie
of course.
before.
Yeah, because what we look, we love horror. Look, we love all the fun horror, obviously. But I think what happened is that, like, especially with Blumhouse discovering the profits of horror, and by the way, making some phenomenal horror films.
Amazing.
But it's a but as Mark said, it's like this kind of or MA. I'm
Oh,
referred to
shut
as
up.
MA is the Mark Alexandre.
Would you be quiet? Just
He
continue. Will you
he
finish
he.
your sentence?
I know I'm gonna just tease you. The with that with the commodification of horror, which to me honestly, horror is a B genre. It's kind of porny. It's transgressive. It's a queer space in a lot of ways as well. And then you suddenly have that co-opted by, of course, the movie studio system because they're like, we can make millions more on this. Kids love horror. It's only like, and then it's just a formula. I mean, it's we could list those movies that are just sort of okay, fine. If you want to go be brain dead for an hour and a half or two, this is what you. I don't even think they're an hour and a half.
Honestly, and
movies.
sometimes who are we to lie? Sometimes we want to be brain dead.
I went to Abigail and I was like, I just want to have those guys are good filmmakers. I wanted to just like check out, but I think the thing is that it has ruined the taste for something more nuanced unless you're doing something in a small release, and I miss that because but that's in general. That's like you could argue the 70s movies that were the #1 box office movies, the well, it was late 60s, but if you look at obviously Bonnie and Clyde and everything after that, because many people would say that was like the gateway, the floodgates burst after that movie. I think the audiences had a more elevated, trained way to watch. And now, well, you're taught to watch a movie like you're ordering food as you're driving away. And you're eating while you're driving and texting.
The law, like there was a mandate at Netflix recently that was like make plots less.
Oh my God.
less interesting, less so that casual viewing, so that you can be folding laundry and not get lost.
Oh, but what about what the Netflix note that
Yeah.
they gave us? One executive once told us on
Oh,
the movie.
oh yeah. We like to know to tell people exactly what the movie is in the first 10 minutes.
That's all gross. Thank you for depressing me.
And I was
and also
like-
thank you.
Sorry. Well, good night.
Well, unfortunately, I do have to leave it on that note, but you know, thank you very much for talking to me. You know, it's a very cool movie. I was not expecting to feel the way I did at the end of it, not to give anything away. It is its own thing, but I will say, you know, it's about a remake of one of the most famous horror movies of all time. And at the end, I felt that some of those character moments touched the heights of what was going on in that film. So it's not just an homage, it's not a parody, it is I think a true
It's so
successor
nice of you
onward.
to interview us drunk. Thank you so much. You're so
Just drinking coffee. All right, guys, thank you so much. Everyone go see The Exorcism in theaters now. Take
Thank you.
care.
It was a